Hello everyone, welcome. For this example, we're going to be determining the minimum corridor width for this unknown story in an office building. It looks like this story measures 80 meters long by 30 meters wide. And we're going to do this according to what we understand of topic 11, which is safety within floor areas, right? Under section 3.3, division B of the Ontario Building Code. So the way we're going to do this example and all future examples, we're going to be using these 6 steps. That way we keep track of everything. So we're going to start with step number 1, which is confirming whether or not this is a part 3 or a part 9 building, which is kind of important, right? For our purposes, we're going to try to prove that this is a part 9 building. And if it isn't, we know that it's part 3. And the relevant requirements for a part 9 building are under division A, sentence 1.3.3.3.1, right? Everything under there, so clauses and such. And it's basically 3 conditions. So it's related to building height, building area, and major occupancy. If even one of these conditions fails, it's not a part 9 building, it's a part 3 building. So let's look at this. Building height in this case needs to be less than or equal to 3 stories. We don't know how many stories this building has, so we can't make a judgment related to that. The area needs to be less than or equal to 600 meters squared. For us, it's 2,400 meters squared. That's definitely more than 600 meters, so this item here fails. It's automatically not a part 9 building, it's automatically a part 3 building. Okay, we don't even need to look at the third condition here. Good. So now that we know that this is a part 3 building, we can move on to step number 2. Step number 2, which relates to determining what the major occupancy is for this building. That's from topic 2. Remember that? And this is important because as a part 3 building, if we know the major occupancy for this building, then we can find out all other relevant stuff like where to look under section 3.3 of the Ontario Building Code, okay? So major occupancy, according to our course, we want to start with Appendix A. Sorry about that. We want to start with Appendix A first, and then we can find the name of that major occupancy under under this table in Division B, okay? And that's because we're beginners. We're new at this. So if we only start with this table here, right, under Division B, Table 3.1.2.1, we're going to make mistakes because we are still not familiar with all the possibilities, and it can be confusing for a beginner. Always start with Appendix A under sentence A-3.1.2.11. Let me show you. Here is Appendix A under the relevant sentence. So we want to find office. And if I scroll through Appendix A, where do I find office? Oh, I think I see it. I see it under Group D, office, right there. Okay? So that tells me that offices are Group D major occupancy. Now, I'm good at, I have more experience at this. So I've actually gone through the whole of this portion to see if offices appears anywhere else. That's what you want to do. I couldn't find it anywhere else, so that tells me it's a Group D major occupancy. And now, if I'm interested, I can find what the Group D is. I'm going to go look at Table 3.1.2.1 under Division B of the Ontario Building Code. So here's the Table 3.1.2.1. And D major occupancies are right here. They are named business and personal services. Amazing. So now let's get back to our example so we can continue. So now that we're here, we can identify this as a D major occupancy, which is business and personal services. Great. We can now move on to the next step, which is step 3, right here, which is determining the occupant load. We learned about this under topic 4. The occupant load is fancy building code speak for the number of people that are going to be using that space, occupying that space. And the formula for that, it's the area for that space divided by some factor, which we actually get from table 3.1.17.1. The area of our space, we just get it from the drawing. It's 80 times 30 equals to 2,400 meters squared. Whereas the factor we have to get from this table. So let me bring up that table. So here is the table in question. So now we have to scroll through the table to find the relevant major occupancy. For our building, it's a D major occupancy. So it's not these ones here. It's not these ones here because this is A, major occupancy assembly. We don't care. It's not these ones here because these are B. It's not these ones here because these are C. It's these ones here because these are D. And then inside that whole row, we then have to find the correct one that relates to office, which is what we have. So look at this. We actually have an entry for office right here, which then gives us this value right here, this factor right here, which is 9.30 meters squared per person, which is then the value that we want to put in here, 9.30 meters squared per person. Okay, so let's write that out. It's 2,400 meters squared at the numerator, 9.30 meters squared per person at the denominator. And if we divide these two numbers, we get 258 numbers of people, which means that the occupant load is 259 people because you always round up, right? Because this is more than 258, and the smallest whole number that's more than 258 is 259. Amazing. Let's move on to step number 4. Now that we have all this relevant information, it's a D major occupancy and, you know, everything else that we found so far, we can determine what the minimum width has to be of the corridor for one person to safely get through. So this is the minimum width of the corridor that allows for a regular human being to get through with no difficulty, right? Unlike that scene from the movie Inception that I showed you. Okay, so because I know that it's a D major occupancy, right? Because I know it's a D major occupancy, and from the information that I got from the video lecture and the course notes, I know I want to go and look up the information under Division B, Sentence 3.3.1.91. And what that says is that the minimum width for a corridor for one person to get through safely is 1,100 millimeters. So look at that. We've now done step 4. Let's move on to step number 5, which is figuring out the width for all people to get through. Okay, so we've done step 4, now on to step 5. We know for determining how many, what the width has to be for all people, we have to use this information. We have to use the occupant load and what the major occupancy is for this, okay? And the fact that it is a corridor. So from what you see from the course notes and the video lecture, we have the occupant load as 259 people. We got that from step 3, okay, right here. And from sentence 3.3.1.17.2, we also know that for a corridor, we have to use a factor of 6.1 millimeters per person. And if you're not sure how we got that, check out the course notes or the lecture video that you got, you know, that allowed you to get here. So we do 259 people times 6.1 millimeters per person equals to 1,579.9 millimeters. And you round up usually this to the nearest millimeter, 1,580 millimeters. And right, you want to round it up to the nearest millimeter. And even then, you might want to round it up to the nearest 5 millimeters, maybe. You want to ask your boss or your supervisor about this. But in our case, 1,580 millimeters is the way to go. Okay? Let's move on to step number 6. For step number 6, we have to pick between the two widths we calculated. The width for one person to get through is 1,100 millimeters. The width for all people to get through is 1,580 millimeters. We always pick the larger one of the two. So in our case, it's going to be 1,580 millimeters. You know what that is? It's our answer. So that's what we actually use as our final answer. And we're good to go. I hope this helped. Get ready for example number 2. It's going to be linked for you below.